Cyberpunk 2077 modding has been taking off as of late. There is simply an unprecedented number of amazing new mods coming to this game. And in this video, I'm going to show you 10 of these new mods that I think you are going to want to download, ranging from fundamental new features added to the game that will totally change up gameplay, to some other smaller stuff that will make you feel a bit more immersed in Night City. But before that, let me change your life with today's video sponsor, Factor. What Factor is going to do is put food at your doorstep, and like actually good food. You get a really nice package just like this, giving you a ton of food options that are all going to be ready in 2 minutes or less. And you don't even have to use a plate if you don't want to. These meals are great, they're never frozen, and specifically designed by dietitians to be nutritious. Factor actually got me to eat my vegetables. And really, the best part here is there's no meal prep or guesswork. You can just open the fridge and you'll have a ton of great choices as to what to have for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, which is really the biggest part for me. I was eating unhealthy because it was convenient, but now Factor is literally just more convenient. There are also a ton of meal preferences if you're trying to hit a fitness goal. So you could go for something like keto, vegan, calorie smart, and there are over 27 meal options each week, so you're never going to get bored of the choices. But perhaps you're even too lazy to open the microwave, and in that case, Factor still has you covered, as there's also going to be a variety of shockingly good smoothies and even some keto shakes that you can choose from. So don't wait and use my link or go.factor75.com and use code POGJUICE60 for 60% off your first box. And once you actually click this, my description will live update to count up everybody's purchases. But looking back at Cyberpunk, have you guys ever seen the cyber psychos in game and thought to yourself, damn, I want to be more like that guy? Well, if you have, you are in luck, as Wannabe Edgerunner will give you that ability, at least sort of. This new mod will add in a completely new humanity and cyber psychosis mechanic into Cyberpunk 2077, forcing you to actually deal with some of your actions in game. The way this will work is pretty simple. This new humanity stat, which is conveniently placed in the top left of your HUD, will track some of your actions as well as your cyberware usage overall, and if you let your humanity fall too low, there will be some consequences as a result. Initially, if your humanity falls too low, there'll just be these light visual glitches on your screen, a bit of a nuisance, but this is really just a warning that things are going bad for you mentally, but you still have time to recover. If you ignore these warnings and continue down, you can get into a pre-psychosis state, which will feature heavier visual glitches, but also now you'll become impacted mentally. Your critical chance will be lowered at this stage, and there is a chance you could fall into full-on cyber psychosis. But if you ignore all of that over time, you eventually will just fall into a full-fledged cyber psychosis, just like those other cyber psychos you could find in Night City. Here, you're going to have even more extreme visual glitches, but since you are so far gone into an almost crazed state, you also get buffs to your character. You're going to move faster, have better armor and health regeneration, as the enemies attacking you seem to almost not even phase you, and your mere presence outside has a chance to trigger a wanted level as citizens start to report you for your crazed state. So okay, that's what happens if your humanity actually falls too low, but you might be wondering, how can that happen? How does my humanity fall? One of the first ways is your cyberware. Now, each and every piece of cyberware you equip will have a humanity value associated with it, and it will permanently decrease your humanity as you equip more cyberware. This because you are basically modifying your body further and further away from its human form. But this won't be applied evenly. Things like brain and heart cyberware will have the largest cost to your humanity, especially in comparison to arm or leg cyberware, which are far more common and actually cost very little. And even further, cheap cyberware will be the most costly to you. If you're relying on low-grade gear, your humanity will be much lower compared to legendary alternatives. So all of the cyberware will lower your humanity by a fixed amount. You'll notice this humanity bar is going to only be partially full now, but it's still likely not going to actually be at the stage of full-on pre-psychosis or even a glitch state at all. The real crux of the gameplay here is going to be how you play. Your actions come with the biggest cost. Taking out enemies now comes at a cost to your humanity. Gang members are relatively cheap, it's not going to bother you all that much. Corpos will have a bit of a higher cost associated with them, but the biggest two are going to be the NCPD, and regular citizens in particular are going to be extremely expensive to your humanity if you start taking these guys out. Definitely need to be a careful driver with this mod. As well as using things like Berserk or Sandevistan will come with a cost each time you use them, as they are actually manipulating time or your body, bringing you further from reality. And you can probably start to see how this all plays together. You're going to have a flat value based on what cyberware you are adding or removing from your body. That's your starting point, but now over the course of a day, all of the enemies you take out and really which enemies you are taking out will come at a further cost to you. But of course, like any good mod, this can be fixed. You're not permanently stuck in a glitch state, and there's a couple of ways to actually alleviate this. You can just go back to your apartment and sleep it off. This will remove all of those variable changes from either using Sandevistan or Berserk or taking out all of those enemies, and it'll kind of reset you to your flat state, so you're just impacted by whatever cyberware you have equipped. Or there's a new item with neuroblockers that can be bought from Ripperdocs, or you could even get a recipe at some of the med vendors. Neuroblockers will do two things. On one hand, they will make it so you no longer can actually decrease your humanity for a limited time. So you use one of these, then clear through an entire group of enemies, and it won't lower your humanity at all. But also, it'll temporarily remove the negative effects of humanity loss. So even if you are in a full cyber psychosis, this will temporarily alleviate that and bring you back to a normal state. So overall, this mod's a pretty interesting one, as it is really a nerf to your character that does feel incredibly lore friendly and also fun in Cyberpunk. If you're going a cyberware heavy route in game, this will force you to slow things down from time to time, and either use chems to continue going or actually go back to your apartment and sleep things off. But at the same time, it also almost has this enrage bonus. At times, it feels very helpful to just go into a full cyber psycho state. You can go on a full rampage and have a bunch of bonuses to your character, although it's going to, of course, come with a ton of glitch effects on your screen, as well as a ton of enemies that will be attacking you. One of the best parts about this mod overall, though, is everything I just talked about is completely configurable. So if things get too difficult or you think some of the costs are too high, you can turn things down at your will. You could technically even just turn things down in the middle of a playthrough if you want. And frankly, with how easy Cyberpunk becomes towards the mid-game, I feel like this is a really nice offset point to actually associate some costs with your playstyle. Although, two mods that I recently covered that I think will mesh super well with Wannabe Edgerunner are System EX and Time Dilation Overhaul. System EX allows you to use a Cyber deck and Berserk or Sandevistan at the same time, so you could use your quick hacks, but then at the same time use Sandevistan to get insane time slows. Or Time Dilation Overhaul, which will add in a ton of new variants of Sandevistan with some pretty cool new mechanics, like slowing time to a near standstill, but this will drain your HP because your body's not meant to be moving this fast through time. There's other ones that will give you bonus to your damage and other stats, or even this very unique Sandevistan that'll give you a blink ability that you saw me using a bit earlier in this gameplay. But another mod that's going to fit in perfectly here is Legendary Cyberware Collection. For one reason or another, Cyberpunk 2077 has a bunch of cyberware that doesn't occupy the full range of rarities. Take for example Reinforced Tendons. This is the double jump leg cyberware, one of the most common ones in the game. The best version you can find is only rare. There is no epic and there is no legendary variant of this, and this applies to a ton of different cyberware in the game. As you can imagine, this mod, Legendary Cyberware Collection, will basically go through and flesh out the lists of all of the various cyberware in Cyberpunk 2077. So they'll more or less have the full range of rarities. It'll implement legendary, epic, and sometimes even rare variants for a lot of the cyberware that we're missing. So now you're able to acquire epic and legendary variants of Reinforced Tendons, and it'll provide you with a double jump, but also now a pretty significant reduction on fall damage. You can also find things like legendary titanium bones that will double your carrying capacity, which is pretty wild. Legendary nano shield will make you a defensive beast. It'll increase your weight and actually slow your character down slightly, but it'll give you a ton of damage resistance. This can be super fun with some melee weapons, as it almost makes you a walking tank for a short duration, which can also be great when coupled with the legendary Dance Morrow from Victor that will boost melee weapon damage by 35%, but each attack with a melee weapon costs 10% more stamina. Overall, I just love this mod because I think it is cool to have the cyberware be fleshed out all across Night City. They'll be evenly distributed for all of the different Ripperdocs in the game. It's just nice to be able to continue the upgrade path. To me, it always seemed kind of odd that there were no legendary leg cyberware in the game, and it's nice to finally have that option. And of course, when you are tying this together with Wannabe Edgerunner, you do get the benefits of having legendary leg cyberware in that it's going to come at a lower cost to your humanity. But it also does come with compatibility for two relatively simple mods, which is a nice extra touch. Kuroshi Optics Expanded will add a full spread of the Kuroshi Optics cyberware from Mark 1 to Mark 5, and there's even a special iconic version that comes with no street cred cost if you pay back Victor. This doesn't add in any crazy new features to Kuroshi Optics. As you upgrade them, they'll just have more mod slots available, and it's just nice to have a clear linearity to Kuroshi Optics going from Mark 1 to Mark 5 as you progress through the game. Or perhaps even a bit better is Link's Paws Reimagined reimagined. Link's paws by default just make you quieter when moving, not providing any kind of boosted jump compared to the other two leg options, making them incredibly unpopular in game. But Link's paws reimagined will fix that. It'll make it so Link's paws now actually have a rare and perhaps even more importantly, legendary variant in game, but also a bunch of new features, so they become a viable alternative. So you get things like faster movement speed while crouching, faster movement speed in general, just at any point you are moving. It'll continue the benefit of quieter footsteps, and then even reduced fall damage and silent falling if you use the higher tier variants of Link's paws. I'm not sure if it's truly good enough to replace one of the other like cyberwares, like double jump is still probably my favorite, but it definitely makes things far more competitive, especially if you are going for a stealth character. Link's paws now become something you really have to consider. And moving faster just all of the time on the legendary variant will make it so you literally beat Cyberpunk faster. You're always going to get from point A to point B quicker than with any other legs. So overall, I feel like these three mods are actually really nice additions to the game. The Legendary Cyberware Collection mod has this cool feature where they have two optional files for Kuroshi Optics and Link's Paws because these other two mods were already popular, so you can pick and choose what you want. If you want Kuroshi Optics to be a standalone mod or use that standalone mod, you could go that route. I think with Link's Paws in particular, the standalone mod has a bit more features, and overall, I think it just does a good job at fleshing out the cyberware in Cyberpunk, and for me, they've all become pretty much must downloads. V's Edgerunner Mansion is another pretty cool one. It'll implement the high top mansion in Cyberpunk 2077 as a purchasable apartment, this being the mansion that also appeared in Edgerunners. The apartment can be bought for 75,000 eddies if you have over 30 street cred, otherwise it'll be 150,000 eddies, and it's basically just a highly luxurious apartment you can buy. It features all of the typical apartment interaction points like a bed, computer, and wardrobe, but also some extra things like a phenomenal view of Night City and a convenient fast travel point right next to the apartment. This is a pretty interesting mod in that it's not like this is making a new apartment. This apartment is always in Cyberpunk. Back in the early days of the game, there was a ton of videos on how to climb up to this and gain access to it. CDPR locked it with a later update though. Instead, what it's doing is making it so you can purchase this at any point in the game. In vanilla Cyberpunk 2077, you gain access to this mansion during one of the endings, but it's during the ending, so you could only use it for like 30 minutes. Personally, I think it's a lot more fun to be able to purchase it during the regular stages of the game and use it for an extended duration. Night City Interactions is one of those mods that you will download and then completely forget about because it fits so naturally into this game. It'll add in a variety of new interaction spots in Night City, the most notable being your ability to go to some of the bars in Night City with some of your favorite characters. There are a variety of different characters you could use for this. It'll actually depend on which stage of the game you are in that character's quest line, so you have to get past a certain quest to unlock them, but then you'll be able to talk with that character about things that have happened during that quest or where they've been since the end of the quest. If you're not interested in talking with other people though, you can also just go to several bars in Night City and sit by yourself, which you typically couldn't do at these locations. But also there's a bunch of new Edgerunners interaction spots, which are pretty cool. And as I mentioned before, I think the best way to experience this mod is to download it and forget about it immediately. Don't seek any of this content out. Then one day as you're exploring, you'll stumble upon one of these Edgerunner spots and it'll be a cool reminder of the connection between the show and the game that all of this is taking place in. And the same goes for those bar chats. They're not really monumental, but just a cool gesture that you can do from time to time that makes this world feel more alive and you more connected to these characters. I think it's a really cool mod that CDPR should honestly just consider adding with one of the next updates to the game. Talk to Me is another mod that will attempt to make Night City a bit more immersive. Now the random NPCs will talk to you a bit more. This will largely just be insults or singular lines of dialogues, but it is pretty interesting, and it does serve to make things feel a bit more alive and active as you are walking around. And last but not least, we have the all vanilla Atelier store. This will add in a few new stores that you can easily access via your apartment computer that will allow you to purchase, well, everything. So via these stores, you can buy pretty much every clothing item in the game for all of the major armor slots. This to save on the absolute headache of jumping around Night City from store to find the perfect look. Everything will be available here and easily in the new Amazon of Night City. This being very handy to use with the new wardrobe system so you can craft that perfect visual for your character. And this mod is definitely very cheaty, but honestly as somebody who never really dives into how my character looks, I just never have cared that much about it, this makes it far more likely that I do get a cohesive outfit on my character while still just using what armors I find grind or buy for their armor rating. With that said though, that is a look at 10 of the best new mods you could download right now for Cyberpunk 2077, with a few callbacks to some older mods that I think fit in super well with some of the new options. I have a ton more Cyberpunk content coming if you guys want to get subscribed. I have a few kind of structured mod videos coming in the future, like how to make Cyberpunk a more hardcore game, how to overhaul the romance options in Cyberpunk, so you could look out for those in the future. But otherwise, as always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.